All right. We'll start with passage 1 and start with paragraph 1. And we'll start with a volunteer would like to read. Chloe, will you read passage 1, paragraph 1? Ashley, you'll do paragraph 2. Liam, 3. Fred, 4. James, 5. And then 6. Natalia. All right. You may begin.
Civil rights are the rights that are guaranteed to all citizens of a nation. Some of these include the right to go to school, to ride public transportation, to use a library, to see a movie, and to eat in a restaurant. The right to vote and the right to be treated equally under the law are others.
Okay, so if I were going to highlight some things on here, what would I highlight? Chloe.
Probably that civil rights are the rights that are guaranteed to all citizens of a nation.
Okay, civil rights are rights, right? Guaranteed to citizens, right? Okay. What might I also, let me do save as. Thank you. What else might I want to also highlight in that passage, Chloe?
Some of these include the right to go to school.
Okay, school,
Public transportation,
transportation, library, movie, restaurant,
and their right to vote and the right to be
voting,
treated
right?
equally.
So that paragraph simply set the stage for what we're going to read on about, right? Those are called civil rights. It's part of a citizen of a group of citizens. All right? Again, feel free to do the same thing on your iPad. Paragraph 2.
Our nation's constitution is supposed to address the rights of every citizen, but U.S. laws have not always been fair. Even after the Civil War, 1861 to 1865, Black Americans were not treated the same as white Americans were treated. Congress passed re-amendments, the 13th, the 14th, and 15th. To protect the rights of former slaves, but officials and citizens in the South enforced their own set of laws at the state level. They found ways to prevent Black Americans from exercising their rights to pass laws designed to racist.
All right. So what are the main takeaways from this paragraph, Ashley?
We passed the amendments. South officials and citizens set their own laws.
Okay. I'm going to say this as well. Would you agree? And then would you agree that this part would be important? And then you said the amendments, right? 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments were to protect people who had been enslaved. But that's at the Constitution or the national federal level, correct? And what's the rub here? What's the thing that happened that didn't allow those things to be enforced? Ashley, what will we also in that paragraph select? Say again. All right. That the South enforced laws at the state level. Right? to keep segregation continuing. All right? So notice I'm trying to be selective on what I highlight. That's still a lot, but there's a lot to unpack in that paragraph, right? Would someone please rephrase in a couple sentences what paragraph 2 is telling us information-wise? Kylie.
After the Civil War, even though we had already tried to...
So Civil War ended.
Yeah, and...
All people are free.
But they're still not treated the same, even though you're supposed...
Even though the Constitution guaranteed those rights to everyone.
And so at the state level, officials and other people were trying to enforce different laws that kept the segregation
Occurring.
even though...
Right. And in the South.
Yeah.
It was states in the South that were using state laws to continue the segregation. All right? All right. Lincoln, if you'll step out in the hall for just a second, please.
Okay, we'll see you again.
All right. Who's paragraph 3? Okay, Liam, paragraph 3.
Black people were not only kept from separated from white people, they also were treated unequally. They were not allowed to sit with white people on trains and buses or in restaurants, movie theaters, churches, libraries, and many other public areas. They were not allowed to use the white hospitals or restrooms. Black students and white students could not go to the same schools.
All right. So this paragraph is then telling us where all this... Wait, where is this going on? Does it have to say in paragraph 3, in the South, there were state laws that were continuing to keep African Americans in separate areas? No, because we know that's what it means because it's continuing from paragraph 2, right? But if you didn't read paragraph 2 and you started at paragraph 3, you might have some questions. But paragraph 2 gave you that information, obviously, right? So let's say that in paragraph 3 in paragraph 2 they were saying that there were rights given to all people, including former slaves, but state laws in the South use laws of the states to keep people segregated. Now, being segregated is wrong, but being segregated at the way it was being done was even more wrong than just being segregated. Could someone speak about what paragraph 3 would have given information that would say that? So here's what I'm asking again. They were using laws that said, well, separate but equal. That's segregation, right? It's separate. That's segregation. But equal means, well, they're separated, but, for example, the girls go in the girls' restroom, the boys go in the boys' restroom, but they have the same facilities, right? Correct? They have equal access to restrooms. So how did paragraph 3 say, well, this is even worse than just the idea of segregation? Because just the idea of segregation because of a race is wrong, but it was even worse than that. And what did paragraph 3 say that shows us it was worse than that? I know you know, but we're trying to use the exact words to make the point. Okay, Permita.
So black people were not only kept separated from white people, but they were also treated unequally.
Okay, so we're separated and unequally separated, right? Would you agree? All right. Are there examples of that? Are there examples? How many examples were given? Take a moment, look at paragraph 3. How many examples were given? Exact number. Betty, how many examples? 9. Josiah, how many examples did you get? 5. How many did you get, Fred? 7. 7. I got 9 as well. Let's see if we can find the 9. All right. I'm going to actually put them in a different color, if it will let me. Okay. So, trains, buses, restaurants, movie theaters, churches, libraries, hospitals, restrooms, schools. Right? 9. But there's really even more there, other public areas too, right? That they were saying that this segregation continued with. All right, who is our paragraph 4 person? Fred.
Locals and state officials in the South use fear, intimidation, and the law to keep black people from voting. The jobs available to black workers were limited. They did not have the freedom to live anywhere they wanted. Black Americans face discriminations in almost every aspect of their lives. They were treated second-class citizens, but in the 1950s and 1960s, concerned people, both black and white, began working together to change all of that.
All right. So, what is the topic sentence? What is the topic sentence in paragraph 4? Fred, what is the topic sentence?
Local state officials in the South use fear, intimidation, and the law.
Okay. The South used fear and intimidation and the law to suppress African Americans. Right? Now, I'm not going to put the word voting in there. Why am I not going to add the word voting as the topic sentence part? It is the topic sentence, but why am I not going to include that in what I just said?
Because they did it in many other things, that's what you said.
Because if I use the word voting in that, I'm going to assume that's the only thing the paragraph's talking about. That's one thing, right? They did it with voting plus more. So what I'm going to put is, I'm going to say state, South, used fear, intimidation, and the law, right? To intimidate. Now, I'm going to look for the examples of all the things they did that about. Now, Fred, voting is one, right? Jobs, where they live, right? Every aspect. Okay? Those are my actual literal details. Would you agree? I'm going to take a different color and I'm going to put I'm going to actually hang on just a second. Treated like second-class citizens. Right? Because that goes back with they're using the fear and intimidation of the law to treat them like second-class citizens. You see that? And in my red is always I'm using as where they did it. See how I'm doing that? Is that a rule? No, I'm just saying for me that's helpful. My red highlights in this are telling me examples of where these things were happening. The yellow is giving me the big ideas, right? Now I'm going to do a green. I'm going to do a green, a different color for this. And tell me why you think I did. Somebody. So why did I just do that in green, Fred?
Because it was a change.
So right up until now, I've just told you what's been going on. This sentence is telling me about the change that's starting to happen. Do you see that's a different sentence from everything we've read thus far? Okay, show me active participation right now. Active participation. Okay. All right, who is my paragraph 5 person? James.
Okay. Out of these decades grew a historical civil rights movement. Growing numbers of African Americans found the courage to take action and fight for their rights. And even when they were threatened upon or death, some of these people have become famous for their efforts to end discrimination. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Junior Thurgood Marshall, and Rosa Parks.
Okay. So, do you think I should continue with the green for this? What do y'all think? Because this is some of the change that's happening, right? So, James, what words do you feel like in the first part of that are important? Here's what I'm looking at. And then I'm saying action to fight for rights. Even with threatening harm and death. Right? Examples. I'm going back to my red. Examples. Right? So my yellow is showing me what was happening. All my red marks are my examples. I've changed to green because that's the movement that's happening to fight it. If I just picked a different color. Right? Okay? And who is my paragraph 6? Okay, Natalia.
But there were many people involved in the modern civil rights movement. The movement succeeded because so many individuals found the courage to speak up and join together. They demanded change and met hate and anger, nonviolence. They were cursed at, arrested, and beaten for their efforts. Some, like King, were murdered. The actions of many other people may be less familiar than King, but they made a significant impact on them.
Okay? So, I think many people involved... Uh-oh, wrong color. With civil rights movement, right? Courage to speak up, join together was why they succeeded. The being successful because of speaking up and joining together, demanding change with nonviolence. Correct? Now, would I go back to my red now for the examples? You think? cursed at, arrested, beaten, murdered. Right? And I'm going to go back to my green and do one more piece to say the actions of many were less familiar but still made a significant impact. The actions of many, although less not famous or not familiar, still made a significant impact. The reason I marked that part is because it's the power of many that also led to the change. If just the few people that we know about that were famous were the only ones, it wouldn't have made the same change. It was the fact that there were lots and lots and lots more that you don't know of that were doing it that weren't famous or weren't familiar people. All right, so passage 2 is longer. It's about 20 paragraphs. And what can you tell me about what passage 2 is going to be about that's different from passage 1? Give me some things that you could gather from just reading. We've read passage 1, that you could just read the title of passage 2 that's going to tell you that it's connected but different. Lincoln, give me some.
Well, we know by the that it's going to go into something that they did in the same where it's going
To make the change. Yeah. One of the ways this change came about were the sit-ins. Did passage 1 go into details about any specific parts of the movement yet? No. It was basically telling you, here's what was going on, and movement began. Right? So in passage 2, you're gonna focus specifically on a movement called the sit-ins. So is this having anything to do with the marches for freedom, or for the boycott of bus segregation? Don't know. We'll see. That could be a sit-in. Or when we hear the word sit-in, do we usually think about the restaurant sit-ins? Is that generally what we usually think of first? Okay. So in passage 2, if you go ahead and read, and will you try to go ahead and annotate in the paragraphs what you feel are the important details? Again, don't over-annotate, right? Don't over-annotate. All right, so we will say go ahead and start working on that. You may not get finished before we start as a group back in, but that's okay, right? Okay, so you may not be totally finished because we'll probably move on in about 8 or 10 minutes, okay? If you finish all your annotations, go back and reread over and see if you left anything out or there's something you want to take off, because if you annotate too much, you're not going to notice it, right? You want to be strategic in what you annotate. All right, so Jayla, will you set the timer for 10 minutes? All right, you may start back.